Okay, so as I had complained that someone come into my yard and dug up, well, not dug up my irises, but took the irises that I dug up to send out to everyone. So now what I'm doing is these irises are not haven't been dug up, but I'm going to actually trim down the leaves and basically preparing them for winter. And I planted these irises like a year ago here, and my intention is not to dig them up, but because, as you know, I have lost some of the irises due to someone had taken the one that I dug up. And so now I'm going to actually take a risk, but not really of a risk. As you can see that these irises are doing fantastic. So here's the main iris here, and you can see there's increases here and increases here and increases here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim down the leaves. I just water them, and so I'm not going to immediately dig them up right away. But yes, I do mulch my irises in ways where it will protect them from like the freeze and the frost. I am in California, so we don't get a lot of freeze or frost, but it will keep the rhizomes protected if it gets pretty windy or it gets too cold. Generally, they say not to mulch your irises, but I do it anyway because these mulch that I use here, they are coconut coconut peelings, so these retains a lot of water, so I don't have to water my irises or my plant very often, and I love them. And so what I'm gonna do is today I'm gonna cut down the wings, trim the wings up, and then the irises that has a lot of offspring, like this iris here, I can see that this is the main one, this is the offspring, this is the offspring, and here's a tiny offspring. I'm gonna dig them up and divide them, so basically that way I can send out more irises to the people that sent me their $15 for shipping. And then also I will be packaging a lot of seeds for the milkweeds, and I will send them out towards the end of the year, so that way you guys could start the seedlings, and then by springtime you will have a monarch butterfly plant, because over the winter the butterflies will not come to your yards anyway. But I will send it out in December, and then you can start it in December, and in the springtime, which is between February and March, you can either plant them in a bigger pot or you can plant them in directly in the ground, so the monarch butterfly will come to it will attract them to your plant. So with that being said, I'm going to prep this area, and then I'm going to start digging some of these irises out and divide them. I'm super excited because I did not know that I have a lot of offspring. Like this one here is Star Woman, and as you can see I have an offspring here, and then I have over here there are some other, the pink ones, I think violet or Valentine Velvet. They're like there's two offspring here. So throughout the garden there's a lot of irises, a lot of offspring, which I don't intend to dig them up right away, but I'm going to have to because I have to keep my words to the people that actually sent me the money. And I do really appreciate that you have the patience for me, since I'm very busy, and I'm trying to get everything going, but honestly it's time is what we lack here. So with that being said, I'm going to trim the irises and I will show you what it looked like when it's done trimming, and then you can see what I do with my irises to prepare them for the winter. You don't have to so you don't have to trim them, but for me it looks cleaner and it probably protect them if you have to deal with like frost and things like that in your area. So that way the fan, if you cut them down, the fan isn't going to, if it frosts over, it doesn't wilt away, and it'll keep the rhizome, it will keep the nourishment for the plant in the rhizomes, so that way it doesn't directly affect the plant. As you can see, we have heat, we have different type of temperature here, so the leaves does really goes kind of like not very healthy. So by also trimming them down, it actually helps the iris rhizome to be a little bit more resilient with weather. So I'm gonna start trimming, and I will show you the aftermath in a little bit. So as you can see, after trimming, there's more space, there's more room for you to see exactly what irises are there, if there's any tags still left available inside the garden. It's a little bit cleaner than just keeping it out of the just let it grow over time, right? So basically I have not yet dug them up for the shipment because I'm gonna have to actually let the iris somewhat dormant before I can dig them up. I don't want to just dig them up like that because the iris rhizome will not be strong if I just dig them up without having them dried out a little bit. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's another rhizome that's wanting to come up. So that's a good thing, right? When you make more space and you start seeing where your inventory or where your irises are, you can make sure that there is more space for the irises. Generally, I will not, if I don't if someone had not taken my irises, I promise you I would not dig these irises out because they are not they basically are not overcrowded. There's plenty of space for them in there to grow. So with that being said, I'm just no, I don't want it, thank you. So
I still want you to have it.
Oh, okay. Mommy have plenty here. See? There's plenty right there. Right there. There's plenty. So I'm gonna put it over here, okay? So as you can see that they are multiplying in ways that they're coming out towards out here, and this little guy is trying to come up, which is a perfect example of how the iris can get overcrowded if you just plant one irises and just leave it there for over a year. These irises were planted here for about a year ago, and they still have plenty of space. As you can tell that this one big rhizomes that I had planted had becomes 1, 2, 3, 4 little offspring, and those back there too, they are growing up, and they have multiple irises that pops out. So with that being said, they multiply very quick if they like their environment that they're in. But this is how I actually prepared the irises that I had planted a year ago. And not only that I planted the irises, but I also these are just seeds that I threw in the garden from which I have leftover pepper, the tiny pepper. So some people have it in their package of mail where I throw in a pepper or two, and I basically just throw it in the garden, and they grow right here, and they give me pepper. So it's really fun. Gardening is a beautiful thing if you have the time for it. Fortunately, I have some time on the weekend, but not every weekend, of course, because there are other things aside from gardening too. But this is how I prepare the irises for the winter, is just trimming them down, making sure that they have just somewhat a tiny layer, not a lot of mulch, but a tiny layer of mulch to just keep them covered, so that way they don't freeze. But as you can see, that if I just dig my hand down, the iris rhizomes are just right there. They are they're not very they're not buried, because you don't want to just mulch them and bury them under the mulch. That will actually rot out your rhizomes, and you don't want to do that. Now, some of the irises that I try to save, like this one here, is called Reality Check. These iris here, I actually planted in a bucket or in a pot, and as you can see that the rhizome is very, very weak, which means that it's not a very healthy rhizome. So I try not to bury it, because at the end of the day, I am trying to save this rhizome. It was in a smaller pot, of course, and it was being drowned, as in it was planted very deep, and it was overwatered. So I just watered this, and so that's why it was wet. But it was about to rot. There was a lot of rotting here. You can see still it was about to rot, and the rhizome is super duper soft too. So it's not a very healthy rhizome. But as you can see, I changed the soil, and it's starting to come back, and it's wanting to live. So basically, these little rhizomes here, the offspring here, are trying to stay alive, and this one is trying to die. So that's the reason why you don't want to bury some of the rhizome in particular, because you may overwater them, you might cause them to rot. It's very finicky if you don't know how to take care of them. So this is a prime example of what you can do to prepare them for the winter. I am not going to take this rhizomes inside the house. I'm just gonna leave it outside, but it's underneath a elephant leaf, so it's in a semi-shaded area. It's not being extreme heat and extreme water. It's in a very controlled environment, I call it, because if I keep it somewhere where it's not controlled, then it's not gonna live. So I hope this Reality Check live for me, because it's a beautiful iris. And here's another iris that I try to save. This one is Springfield Sunburst, Springfield Sunburst. And as this one was in a very poor condition too as well, and I'm trying to save it as well. So as you can see, I have a lot of rhizomes that are needing help, and I am trying to nurture them back to health. So I'm very, very picky to, what to do with them and how much to water them. I only water these once or twice a week, and I keep them in an area where it's partly shaded, so that way they don't die on me or rot on me, because it's gonna waste my time and effort, and that's what we don't have. It's a lot of time and effort to just spend on things that it's not gonna do us any good. So with that being said, thank you for being patient with me, and thank you for waiting for me to send you your rhizomes. I am going to try to make all the order, send out all the order as soon as possible, but I am only a one-woman show, so I do really appreciate your patience and waiting. Thank you.